On the record, when looking at the totality of his game, the case can be made that he is simply the best player in basketball.
Just to you and the guy, I think Wemby is the first perfect big man that's ever created.
It's a sell. Wembanyama, I think he's going to go. Think he's going to go from midcourt. Got it!
He is the one.
Yesterday joined Bill Walton in 1977 as the only player since blocks became an official stat in 1974 with 300 points, 150 rebounds, and 50 blocks in their first career postseason.
I've been a huge Joker fan. Nobody has been able to do what he does offensively, but Wemby is nowhere near Joker offensively, but defensively, nobody is near him as well.
Wembanyama won't give Kamara any space. He welcomes Branch into the paint.
Well, who you think taught him? Rudy taught him that time.
Exactly.
Oh!
Dort out of the corner around Wemby. Caruso, Wembanyama.
Mountain.
Jokic has long been one of the most uniquely gifted offensive players the game has ever seen. Nobody does what he does on that end of the floor. But while Victor Wembanyama may not be anywhere close to Jokic offensively, on the defensive end, nobody is anywhere close to Wembanyama either.
Branch into the paint.
Well, who you think taught him? Rudy taught him that time.
Exactly.
Oh!
Dort out of the corner around Wemby. Caruso, Wembanyama.
When it comes to the 2026 playoffs, the biggest storyline, both literally and figuratively, has been Victor Wembanyama and his emergence on the grandest stage the sport has to offer. When Victor entered this postseason, his standing around the league was already sky high. A first-team NBA selection, the best defender in basketball, a player whose impact on both ends of the floor was undeniable, and all of that, at just 22 years old, was considered his baseline. Fast forward a month and a half, and that baseline looks like an understatement. Right now, Wembanyama is being discussed as the best player in the world. Not just the most dominant, but the most impactful and by far the most unique player anyone in the league has seen in a long time. And that last point matters more than it might seem. Victor's uniqueness is what separates him from everyone else in the conversation. He appeals to every kind of fan simultaneously. Hardcore analysts point to his advanced metrics. He passes that test with ease. People who trust what they see with their own eyes watch him and immediately understand what the numbers are saying. And for the casual fan who only catches highlights on social media, he is exactly the kind of player who makes you want to sit down and watch a full game from tip-off. Because with Wembanyama on the floor, on any given night, something you have never seen before could happen.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
I'm speechless. Speechless. I have no...
At 22 years old, in his very first postseason, Victor Wembanyama is still learning as he goes, and somehow, with every game and every series, he keeps finding another level. Look back at his playoff debut against Portland. He put up 35 points on above 60% shooting, one of only 4 players in NBA history to accomplish that in a playoff debut. The other 3 names on that list are Chris Paul, Derrick Rose, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That kind of company alone tells you everything you need to know. Then came the second round against Minnesota. In a critical Game 3 on the road, Wembanyama posted 30 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds, becoming the youngest player in postseason history to hit that statistical milestone. The players he surpassed to claim that record were Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Wilt Chamberlain. And then the Western Conference Finals arrived. In his debut on that stage, he dropped 41 points and pulled down 24 rebounds, joining a rare group of players to ever record a 40-point, 20-rebound game in a conference finals, a performance that left very little room for debate. At his absolute floor right now, his worst-case version at age 22, Wembanyama is a 20-10 player with elite-level defense. That alone makes him a championship-caliber centerpiece. When his prime fully arrives, the projection is 30 points and 15 rebounds on a nightly basis. And as Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals showed, 40-point nights don't even look like a stretch. The offense flows to him naturally. Games 2 and 3 were solid by any reasonable standard, though they didn't quite reach the historic heights of Game 1. And that's exactly where Shaquille O'Neal stepped in with a pointed observation.
Need to do more. Game 1, he had 41-24, they won. Game 2, 21-26, it's not enough. And I can say that as Lord Supreme of all big men.
And looking at what Shaquille O'Neal pointed out, he wasn't wrong. Game 1 was an all-time performance, dominant from the opening tip. But in Games 2 and 3, that same hyper-aggressive score-first mentality that made Game 1 so special wasn't quite there. For a player of Wembanyama's caliber, where the expectation every night is total dominance on both ends, those two games stood out, not because they were bad, but because they weren't Game 1. So heading into Game 4, the question was simple. How does he respond? The answer came immediately. From the opening tip, Wembanyama was hunting shots, 3 attempts in the first minute and a half alone. He set the tone early and never let up. By the end of the first quarter, he had 11 points, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and a +11 rating. By the end of halftime, those numbers had grown to 22 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a +16. And then, right at the halftime buzzer, he launched a 40-foot bomb that went straight through, pushing the lead to 12 and handing San Antonio all the momentum heading into the break. After that shot, the game was essentially over. The third quarter belonged to the Spurs at home. The fourth quarter was no contest. At this point, the only thing standing between Wembanyama and 30 points on any given night is the game already being a blowout. That's where the conversation now sits. His series numbers against Oklahoma City tell the full story. 30.3 points, 13.3 rebounds, 4.3 assists, and 3 blocks per game on shooting splits of 53, 43, 88. For a 7'5" player in his first Western Conference Finals appearance, those numbers are simply without precedent. And he's doing it almost entirely on his own. Not a single teammate is averaging 18 points per game in the series. Not one key rotation player is shooting above 50%. To call Wembanyama the most impactful player in this series would be an understatement. The Spurs with him on the floor versus off it are two completely different teams. His on-off offensive rating differential is +27, his defensive rating differential at +30.4, and his overall on-off differential at a staggering +57.4. And then there's what he's doing to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander specifically. Neutralizing SGA has been Wembanyama's single most important assignment this series, and he has delivered. Gilgeous-Alexander is shooting just 39.2% from the field, the lowest of any series in his career. His three-point percentage sits at 26.7%, his third lowest ever. His two-point percentage is the lowest of his career. And from the mid-range, historically his most lethal weapon, he's shooting below 37%, nearly 20 percentage points below his regular season average. That right there is Wembanyama's impact in its purest form. He doesn't just guard players, he dismantles them. With the series now tied, the most compelling storyline in basketball is straightforward. Can a 22-year-old in his first postseason lead a team of young and largely unproven players to the NBA Finals? If Wembanyama gets there, the path alone will be historic, because nothing about this run has been easy. And if he does make the finals, even setting aside whether he wins a championship, the NBA will have its undisputed face for the next generation. Right now, to a growing number of fans and analysts alike, he is already the best player in the world at 22 years old. He competes with a ferocity that is rare at any age. He understands the magnitude of the moment and rises to meet it. He appeals to every kind of fan, from the most analytical to the most casual. In every way that matters, what the league has in Victor Wembanyama is a once-in-a-generation player with the game, the mentality, and the star power to carry the sport forward. That is an extraordinarily rare combination, the kind that only comes along once in a lifetime. The only question now is whether the moment will be handled with the care it deserves.